What's going on YouTube? It is Texans Takeover here, back with another video. In today's video, we have a 7-round mock draft again. I know they're pretty repetitive, but we're T-minus 11 days at the time you're seeing this till the NFL draft does begin. I did something a little different yesterday, and then there's going to be something different the day after you see this, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be more best fits in the draft and stuff like that. It's draft content right now. The draft is literally a week and a half away from when I'm recording this video, so it's exciting times. You know your team's going to improve, especially if you're a Texans fan with the amount of capital you have near the top 100 with 28, 38, 59, 69, 106 counts in there as well. So again, really exciting times for Texans fans. You don't know who's going to be a hit, you don't know who's going to be a miss, but you're just hoping you get some good production throughout this draft because you know you have to get it right. You're about to have to pay CJ Stroud, you're about to have to pay Will Anderson, you're going to have to pay Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock down the road too. And see if you can manage to do that. See if you can't manage to do that. You don't really know what's going to happen. Maybe you have to let go of Danielle Hunter and you find your replacement edge in this class. You know, there's a lot of different avenues you're going to have to explore. But if you're a Texans fan, I think this is really exciting times. Just because you know how good your roster is, you don't really have a need. So whatever you come in, you know that means that the team trusts this guy. You know the team thinks this guy's going to produce, and it's a shiny new toy at the end of the day. You know everyone loves their shiny new toys that they can just watch, have fun with. So yeah, we'll see what the Texans do. I've been in the camp of trade down at pick 28, but then again, if you see like a Vega Ione fall to like 21 to the Steelers, you're gonna have to make that move up. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Or if like Caden Proctor, you know that he's going to the Browns at 24, and that's the player you're gunning for, then I think you can move up to 23 or 22. You know, so you're really in a good spot where you can read the board, do what you want to do. But we will begin this draft here with Mendoza going 1. Obviously, Jeremiah Love goes 2, which is somewhat surprising. But there, yeah, and it doesn't fall. And here at 28, Cardinals are asking to move up. I think that's because they want their guy in Ty Simpson at 42. That would be my guess. And I'm not going to stop them. I'm going to tell them you can move. I think I would want. Yeah. What would do it? I think if I get 104 a third next or fourth next year and like 143, something like that, I think would be the haul to move up. So we'll see if the Cardinals do take that. They do. So you get picks for next year. You move down 6 spots, so you're hoping Christian Miller, Peter Woods, or not Lee Hunter, but Christian Miller, Peter Woods are the two that I want the most. So I'm hoping that they do fall. We'll see what the Cardinals go with here at 28. They go with the Honachor. Ty Simpson goes at 33. Banks goes at 30. So they just wanted the right tackle after going with Sonny Styles in the first or in the early parts of the first round. I think if they move up back in the first round in real life, they would go with Ty Simpson, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't affect our draft. And here at 34, I talked about him, how I wanted him. And this is my draft hopeful. If you watched the video from yesterday, you know how much I love Peter Woods. Third on my big board. And that's because I had Caden Proctor and Keldrick Falk, who are guys that I don't know fall to Houston above him. But if Peter Woods is available at 28, if he's available at 34, I think you're running the draft card in if you're Houston. So with pick number 34, I am going to go with the 3 tech out of Clemson, guy that can rush the passer from the interior defensive line. You can see that he's an ideal blend of size, strength, and athleticism. I think the athleticism is the thing that shine outs for me, but I can understand how, you know, the size at 6'3", 310, and then, you know, just his ability to flow with the play, which is a lot due to strength, just being able to solidify your base, makes him an intriguing prospect. But I just love the athleticism of Peter Woods, and I love the upside. A lot of potential there, and I think that's something the Texans could explore and exploit with him, just knowing that you have Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson off the edge, so it allows him to blossom. So a lot of explanation, but with pick 34, it is going to be Peter Woods out of Clemson. Pregnon goes there. Zion Young goes there. Kind of ruins what you want to do because I think if Zion Young or Pregnon fall, then that's exactly your selection. Caleb Lomu is an interesting one. But if I can move down 5 spots and get like 94, then I'm doing that all day of the week. Can I get 87? 31% chance, 41. We'll just take 94. I don't mind it at all. So you're picking up an extra pick for moving down 5 slots. And we'll see who's available to me there. Here at 43, Lomu's still available. I'm going to hold off on Lomu in this draft because I've done a lot of stacks with Peter Woods and Lomu. But I do like Lomu as a prospect. I believe for if we're picking at 28 or 38, he was my 11th or 12th ranked player. I'm going to go with my 8th ranked player, though, a guy that we just brought in for a top 30 visit. We've had 3 separate meetings with him, pro day, at the combine, and then at the combine it was informal. It wasn't a formal meeting, but we met with him twice. Other than that, one of the best pass protecting guards in the class, if not the best. I prefer him to Pregnon. In terms of my list, I have him 26th. I have Pregnon 33rd. And then obviously my top guard is Ione, but you know, don't think that's feasible for the Texans. So I'm going to go with the guy out of Texas A&M. Again, really good pass protector, and the age is something that I really like because you can allow him to develop behind a Wyatt Teller. And when he's ready to take over, he does take over. But until then, you don't really have to rush anything. You can just allow him to develop. And at 43, I am going to go with the guard out of Texas A&M in Chase Basantes. Moving on to 59, though, you got to wait about 16 picks in the second round to select again. Um, and I think this is a position where you're kind of just thinking best player available. Keontae Scott's an interesting one if you want, that safety nickel hybrid. Um, Trading Stukes if you want a boundary corner. This is a guy that I think is a really good player, just, a little bit older, but you can see him go high. If you want to trade, I think it'd be down. I don't think you're trying to stack picks or anything. I think it'd be down and out. So, you go to a team like we already traded with the Dolphins, and you go 59 for like 87 in like a second next year or a third next year and like 130. That's kind of the thing you're looking for is just picks in ranges you don't have, and you're waiting for 106 to 141. Um, and then you're waiting from 69 to 94. So maybe if you get um, maybe if you take this away, you can get 75 on a third round pick next year. So you're looking to move around the board. And I think the sweet spot in this draft is around that range with um, where the Dolphins are. They're set up really well in this draft with 87, 90, 94, which you already traded for, and 75. Um, so I think they're going to have an exciting draft. But here at 59, I am just going to stick and pick. I know it didn't sound like I was going to do that, but I haven't drafted this guy before, I don't think. And that's one of the better pass rushers in this class, and he is from Tennessee in Joshua Joseph. 5 sacks for the Volunteers last season. Just an explosive edge rusher. I think he has some developing to do, but then again, if you allow him to learn off of Daniil Hunter, then I think you have one of the better edge rushers in this class. Derek Moore, I love. I mean, I'm a Michigan fan, um, but we'll see. We'll see what the Texans do in accordance to the edge position. I really like Kieran Crawford too. We'll see what the Texans do at edge. I think that it is going to be a draft issue because we haven't signed a backup edge in free agency. Malachi Lawrence, another guy I like, was part of my big board in my last video too. Um, Again, I don't know why they all say 3-4 outside linebackers. Makes no sense in my opinion. They're going to play in the 4-3s. But we'll go Joshua Josephs here and allow him to learn and develop behind one of the better pass rushers of all time in Daniil Hunter. Derek Moore still available at 69. I think here, though, you're looking for just a guy that can make an impact, and I think a guy that can make an impact right away could be a gadget guy like Zachariah Branch. I think it could be a Max Clare, too. Obviously, Keelan Rutledge is intriguing as well, but if you're looking for a guy to make an impact, I think you're looking on the interior offensive line. Keelan Rutledge is a guy that can play center. He's been working out at center. I don't know if the Texans like him there or not, but I think he embodies the mentality of a Houston Texans. So at pick 69, I think I am going to go with the physical mauler who's good in the pass game, good in the run game. And I think could play center in the NFL. He's been working out for teams there, as I said. I don't know if he worked out at center for the Texans or not, but I'm going to go with Keelan Rutledge here at 69 with the idea that he does play center. So you've rebuilt your offensive line entirely. Center, guard, and then maybe a developmental tackle is what you're looking for next. But here at 94, I think I am going to try to slightly move up. Maybe 143 could be the idea to get to like 97 and maybe pick up like 2 or 196. Yeah, that's fair. I'll do that from the Minnesota Vikings because I have an idea in mind. But here at 94, I am going to go with one of my favorite running backs in this class. and that is a guy that can really pass protect well, and that's why I like him so much. I think he could develop into a guy that's similar to a David Montgomery. I wouldn't say that's his like actual comp, but I think he's a similar player. So at 94, I am going to go with Jonah Coleman out of Washington, and then at 97, I've talked about rebuilding the offensive line. I think this is a guy that you just stick behind Trent Brown and let him learn. You look at the size 6'9", 345, and he's about to be 22, so he's a younger offensive lineman in this draft class, and I think that's valuable. And I think teams are going to value that too. And just because you have those extra years to develop and become a good offensive lineman. Whereas you look at like who's an older offensive lineman that I can bring up. Tiernan's not that old. I think he's like 23. Yeah, but um, older offensive lineman. Let me think. Oh, Pregnon's an older offensive lineman. He's 24 and a half. He's about to be 25 at the beginning of the year. Markel Bell is going to be 22 at the beginning of the year. So you have 3 years of development for Markel Bell, and he'll still be at the same age as Emmanuel Pregnon, if that makes sense. So you have flexibility with him. Ihanator is 24. Oh, no, he's 22 and a half. I thought he was 24 or 23. Sorry. He will be 23 at the beginning of the draft. But you have years with Markel Bell to just develop him before you actually integrate him in, which I think is the valuable thing. So here at 97, I'm going to go with Trent Brown replacement in Markel Bell as we wait a couple of picks to get to 106. Deshaun Stribling going there. I mean, he's such a good player. I love him. But at 106, Logan Jones being available is kind of mad. We haven't, we traded for Marte Mapu, but I don't know if that stops you from drafting a linebacker. And I really, really like Deontay Lawson's game. I think this is a guy that can flow in the run game. And I think if you're looking for a Toa replacement because you don't think you can pay him, then this is your guy. So with pick 106, I'm going to get the Alabama linebacker to potentially replace the Alabama linebacker in Toa, or just, take some leeway off of EJ Speed. But yeah, I'm going to go with Deontay Lawson out of Alabama. You can see the grades there, 83.6 in the run defense grade compared to 70 in the pass coverage game. A lot better of a run stopper than a pass coverage guy, which is why I think he could play the Sam and replace Toa. They say he's undersized, but 6'2", 228. I think he can play at 235, and that's fine for a linebacker in my opinion. And I'm gonna go with Deontay Lawson there at pick 106. I don't think he's too undersized, maybe slightly, but not anything too drastic to make me think that the Texans couldn't do something with him. Chris McClellan goes there, another guy that I really like. Trey Zune, Texans seem to really like. Out of Texas A&M, hosting him on a top 30 visit. He can play guard, he can play center. First team all SEC, I believe, at left tackle. Trey Zune played left tackle and then some center this past year for Texas A&M, but I thought his best reps were at left tackle, but I think he projects more as a center in the NFL just because of the arm length, the size, and the ability to be an athlete at center. I think is a lot better than if he was stuck at tackle. Here at 141, not sure I'm too big of a fan of anything here. Um, Actually, you know what? Let's add some dynamicism to this offense. A guy that we hosted on a top 30 visit. We haven't hosted many wide receivers on a top 30 visit. I love Kevin Coleman Jr., don't get me wrong, but it doesn't seem like the Texans are too interested in him. Seems like their interest is in Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech. And I think he's a guy that could, truly carve out a role in this offense just because of the size. I think he could be a good backup to a Nico, a Jaden Higgins, learn from them, grow. And then, if Nico gets injured, then you still have some security there with Caleb Douglas, who's a similar profile, but obviously just not as good of a player as Nico Collins. But maybe he can develop into one, you don't really know. But at pick 141, I'm going to reach a little bit down the board and go with Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech. As we wait another 20 picks or so to 167 to make our next selection, Elam's Org is there, a player that I really like. And we haven't gone with tight end, have we? We have not. Which is probably my bad. I just completely slipped my mind. I like Raridan a lot. I like Warkirkshire a lot. But I mean, at tight end at 167, Oscar Delp's here, but I don't think that's realistic. A guy that we've met with a lot is Miles Kitzelman. I think he has some upside at receiver, but just a really, really good blocker. in my opinion. I really like his game. I think the Texans like it too because they're hosting him on a top 30, and they've met with him multiple times. So at 167, I am going to go with the tight end out of Tennessee, pairing him back up with Joshua Josephs and Miles Kittelman. As we move on to 196, you're waiting about 30 picks here, and then you're waiting about 50 to get to 243. But at 196, I think you're just looking for guys that can come in and do a solid role. I think VJ Payne could do that. I mean, Lorenzo Styles is just such a good athlete. Oscar Delp being here is kind of dumb. Um, Oscar Delp realistically is going where Jonah Coleman or Markel Bell went, maybe Deontay Lawson range. So if I wanted to make that pick there, I would be realistic with that. Um, but at 196, I think you're just looking for guys that can come in and do a role. I really liked VJ Payton's game at the Senior Bowl. Haven't watched too much of him, to be honest. But he's got good size. Um, Need to watch more film on him, but I liked what I saw at the Senior Bowl, so maybe I'll watch him throughout next week to see if that's a good late round pick. But at 196, I am going to go with VJ Payne out of Kansas State. As we approach our last pick in the draft, another pick where you're just looking for a guy that can come in and do a job, and hopefully develop and make the roster. You don't know if this guy's gonna make the roster or not. It's not a shoe in. Um, as on Yedem goes right before us. I think that's something the Texans would like to explore. Maybe we get him in the sixth or something like that. But at pick 243, we are going to look at someone that Aaron Wilson said, um, participated in our local pro day, and looked like a decent quarterback there. So I know some people are kind of just shocked by this, but I'm gonna go with Kyron Jones out of Virginia Tech just because he participated in our local pro day. Maybe the Texans like him. Maybe he could be a UDFA to Houston, but nothing else to really do here. I think you could get a quarterback that could make the roster behind Graham Mertz or in front of Graham Mertz and behind Davis Mills. I mean, you're in the seventh round. It's not really anything too crazy. I like Rushel Faison out of South Carolina. I thought he would have carved out a bigger role, but 26 years old is a little concerning there. But he is a decent player. I like Noah Whittington a lot. I like Adam Randall. Um, a young player that transitioned from wide receiver to running back. So you know what? We'll go with Adam Randall to close out this draft, and then we'll get Drones uh, as a UDFA. That's what we'll do. But grading the draft, Peter Woods is an A, Basantis a B, Joseph C plus, Keelan Rutledge a B, Coleman a B plus, Bell C plus, Deontay Lawson C plus, Kitzelman or Douglas C minus, Kitzelman D, Payne C minus, and Randall a B plus. Overall it is a B plus. I think that's a fair grade actually. But we move around the board 3 times in this draft. I think it's going to be more than that in real life, but those trades would happen around here. I'm not too fussed about what we do down here, to be honest. Uh, I think the points of emphasis are in the first round, and then in that again 35 to 75 or 85, whatever you want to call it, range, where the sweet spot of the draft is. So let me know what y'all think about this draft down in the comment section below. If you did enjoy, please be sure to like, subscribe, and as always, it's Texans Takeover, and I'm out. Peace.